Oh yeah, we're not recording on our computers, are we, Ciara?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Good.
No, you're fine. All right, I'll start us off. Welcome back to the In Raw Life podcast. We are thrilled to have you here today because we are speaking with a specialist on sleep. Oh my gosh, I'm stoked for this. Don't fall asleep on us because we want you to stick around and gain all of the insight from our specialist. Her name is Funke. Yeah, did I get it? Okay, good.
Yes.
And I will introduce you to her in just a second, but first I want to remind you to rate, review, subscribe to the podcast. That will help our podcast to grow. And you can also find out more from us on Instagram at inrawlife.com or .co, sorry, at inrawlife.co. So, Funke, tell me, who are you? Tell me about your business, why you're passionate about sleep. I want to know it all.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here. So, well said. My name is Funke Afolabi-Brown. I am a board certified pediatric pulmonologist and a sleep medicine physician. So, AKA, I help children sleep better and breathe better. And guess who else I help? Their parents. So, and I am the founder of Restful Sleep MD, and I help busy moms prioritize sleeping their children for their optimal health and wellness. And so that's really what I do. And I came into sleep after I had done, training in pediatric pulmonology, really because I saw how interrelated things were between the breathing and the sleeping. Because if you have a child who has a breathing problem like asthma or things like that, their sleep is going to be disrupted because they may be coughing and wheezing at night. And so I thought that relationship was interesting. But beyond that as well, after I did my sleep fellowship was when I started realizing how sleep deprived this nation is. And, the CDC actually has considered insufficient sleep as a global epidemic. So this is something that we need to pay attention to. And since I know the science, and as someone who's a mom as well and has had issues, and also a physician who's had issues with sleep deprivation, but now on the other end, I've just become so passionate about teaching people about sleep. And so I do have, I have a YouTube channel and a website where I put out a lot of information. And also I do speak publicly, so at events and things like that, really educating people about the importance of sleep.
I love that. I think it's so interesting, like in my own life, because I used to be of the mindset like, oh, what's the least amount of sleep I can get to get the most done. And I knew it was 6 hours. So I'd give myself, if it was 5, I couldn't function. But if I got 6, I could do everything with enough coffee. And I started realizing, I don't know if you have had people say this or not, but it affected my anxiety. When I only get 6 hours of sleep, I am way more anxious than if I get 8. Have you talked to anybody that deals with that?
Yeah. So the science shows a very, very strong association, really one of the strongest actually, between insufficient sleep and mood disorders. So we're talking anxiety, we're talking depression, we're talking increased risk of suicidality actually. So actually could potentially be fatal. So not an association, so not that one causes the other, but in that sense, if you already have sort of more of an anxious predisposition, that lack of sleep can tip you over the edge to just be more anxious and really create this spiral. And so you're right. Most people tend to try to cheat on sleep and get just the littlest bit. But eventually it adds up, and then you start to see those daytime effects, moodiness, anxiety, all that. We see it in children, we see it in adults as well. Think about it. Sometimes if you go to the store, right, or to the grocery store, you see this 2-year-old throwing a mega tantrum. And what does the parent say? Oh, he just didn't get his nap, or he just didn't get enough sleep, right? That it's there. So that exact feeling that child is having in that store where everything just seems so overwhelming, we as adults have it. It doesn't go away.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
So that is,
when I don't get enough sleep or if someone messes
yeah,
with my sleep, I get angry. Like
yeah,
my moodiness comes out.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. So just your threshold for pain, whether it's emotional pain, whether it's physical pain, actually becomes so low when you're sleep deprived. And so sleep affects everything, you know.
yeah, I know a lot of our listeners and our community, when they're asked, because we help people have more free time to do what they want in their days. And so many people, if you ask them, what would, especially moms, if you could have an extra hour a day, what would you do with it? Oh, I would take a nap.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
such a common answer.
Yeah, that is so true. I mean, I feel like we're all just carrying those bags of sleep debt everywhere we go. And so you're trying to pay it off 1 hour at a time. But I think the key, though, is trying to consolidate it as much as possible instead of trying to snag it here and there. If you prioritize sleep and then try to fit all these other things around it, if you change that, you will actually be able to get more done. Because memory, learning, cognition, executive decision making, right? And learning is so critical. Sleep is so critical for all those functions. Yeah. So I talk to my teenagers and things who are like trying to burn the candle on both ends and stay up all night. Actually sleep and then try to learn that skill again, and it will amaze you how much more you're able to accomplish.
Yeah. I've gotten much better at making sure I get the exact 8 hours now, and I'm like a stickler for
That's
it.
awesome.
And it past year, and it really has changed a lot for me. And at the right times, instead of staying up late and waking up late, going to bed at a decent time, waking up at a normal time, and I get so much more done.
Yeah, that is so right. That is definitely something that I see.
I love that you use the phrase executive decision making, because it's so true. Like, I feel like when I'm tired, I don't even think about it. I'm just like, my kids will come in and ask me for something, and I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, can I have this jar of candy? Whatever. Can I watch the TV? Sure. Like, I'm not thinking. I'm just like, I'm in survival mode versus deciding what's the best next step for me, for my business, for my kids, all of it. Oh, that's such a great way of phrasing it.
That is so good. That is so true. There's some times when, like, if I've had a rough day and I'm trying to still just wrap things up, and you know, if I'm talking maybe to my husband and he's like, oh, this, and I'm saying, like, you know what, just let's not conclude on that. Let's talk about it in the morning. And it's like a whole, like, we're like doing a 180, like, no, I didn't. I really thought we should do that, you know? So you're right. It's really important for us to prioritize sleep.
So what would you say for people that struggle with sleeping? Like, once I'm out, I'm out. Like, my husband came into me the other day and was like, do you not hear the baby? And I was like, no, I don't, because I'm very much asleep. But my husband is the opposite, whereas like the times, like I got up this morning to go to the bathroom and he's like wide awake, you know? And we actually don't even sleep in the same room because he's such a light sleeper. So I didn't even go, it wasn't even the same room as him, and he still woke up because I was up. So, and I've talked to other women who struggle with it too, and they have heightened anxiety because of whatever. So what do you recommend for people who have trouble staying asleep?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So really, when I look at sleep, or when we look at sleep, we should look at sleep that way. We're talking about the quantity of sleep, right? That's the 8 hours or 7 to 9. Let's try to get it in, and as well as the quality of sleep, and actually sleep continuity as well. So in terms of the quantity, that's usually it's this number we're trying to get to, okay? The quality, you really have to think about what are the things that are affecting my sleep quality. What's the thing that's making me wake up and making it hard for me to fall back asleep? You mentioned one huge one, which is that heightened anxiety, because then your body's in this increased arousal state. And so then it's hard to really settle down into sleep. And I always tell people, we all wake up in the middle of the night. Even though you're you feel like you're asleep and you're just sound asleep through the night, you're actually waking up. And usually we wake up about 5 times at night. Every single one of us, we cycle through different stages of sleep: light sleep, deep sleep, and then REM sleep, which is your dream sleep. But and in between those cycles, you have a very, very brief awakening. Now, the reason why you don't even know it and you don't remember when you wake up in the morning is because your sleep is continuous. You have good sleep continuity. And usually the reason why that is because what you had when you were falling asleep is still with you to continue sleeping. So give an example. You went to bed, you have your lovely, I don't know, I love a satin pillow. So you have that there, you're sleeping, your room is nice and cool and dark. That's what your brain remembered when it was falling asleep. So then you cycle through your, whatever, 4 or 5 times, you wake up, you continue sleeping, you feel safe. This is just what it is like. But if something happens, your pillow slips off, the room temperature suddenly goes up, something that was not present when you were about to fall asleep suddenly is now like absent or whatever. When you wake up, then your brain wakes up even more. Now, I'm bringing that to either heightened anxiety or something like that. If you're going to bed and your mind is already in this, racing situation, when you have that brief awakening, those thoughts come back in, it's going to make you wake up even more. And so then that just kind of triggers this like vicious cycle of, oh my goodness, I can't sleep now. My day is going to be all shot. It's going to be the worst day ever. Look at all the things I have to do. Oh my goodness, who's going to do the laundry? Who's going to pick up the kid from soccer? Like you start thinking all kinds of things. And so really the idea is trying to tackle those things at bedtime with some certain strategies, of course, during the day. Another example would be things like, electronics, right? Technology is here to stay. Look at us here chatting. Thanks to technology, we're all like in different geographic locations. It's beautiful. It's allowed, so many people to come into our world. It's unified the world more than ever. It's here to stay, but it has its detriments, right? Technology and, iPhone, iPad, whatever device, video game, TV, it gives out a blue light, which suppresses melatonin production. Melatonin is the sleep hormone. So if that's something that's part of your going to bed, it can also break up your sleep because then your body is not necessarily producing sufficient melatonin. Or you may have the distractions with the notifications and the texts and things like that. That can disrupt your sleep as well. And then, think of things like caffeine. So these are sort of like some things that you start to think about, if you're having this situation where you're just waking up and it's hard to fall back asleep. Caffeine also can affect your sleep a lot. So you have a lot of people drinking like coffee with dinner, a nice iced tea, and caffeine stays in your system for so long, and it affects the quality of your sleep because it doesn't let you achieve what you call slow wave. That's like the deep restorative sleep. It doesn't let you get enough of that. So that may be something to also consider. So you kind of have to take through and troubleshoot, like, am I stuck with so many intrusive thoughts? If that's the case, try to address them, meditation, journaling, therapy, meds, whatever you need, you know what I mean? If it's the devices, okay, let's get that out of the bedroom, like 30 to 60 minutes before bed. Is it the room temperature? Ideally, you want a cool temperature. So making sure your room environment is, consistent. It's cool, it's dark, it's noise free. So those are some basic things that I always notice that is missing when people are like, I just can't sleep, I feel exhausted and things like that. Is it caffeine? Coffee is good, but usually I will recommend not drinking coffee after about 1 p.m. And the reason why is because caffeine stays in your system. Actually, the half-life is about 4 to 6 hours. So if you drink coffee at 8 or 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. with dinner, when it's time for bed at 10 p.m., you're only halfway there. So, and it's there in your system. I love that. I love that you're drinking coffee now at 10 a.m. and then 1 p.m. you're done. So, so those are some things. Now, if you've checked all the boxes and there's another piece is there an underlying medical condition? Is there sleep apnea? Is there restless leg syndrome? These are all disorders that can make you wake up at night and you just have a hard time falling asleep, and you should discuss with your physician. If you've done that and you've ruled that out, then one of the things I suggest, if it's just a situation of, okay, I just wake up and I am fully awake, sleep does not look like it's anywhere in the horizon, is to just get out of bed. Just get out of bed.
Really?
Honestly, it's 100%, because you're like there tossing, turning. The bed is now the place of, oh my gosh, what do? I can't sleep. Look at me. I'm just a bad sleeper. I'm just you start to think more of those thoughts. Just like, don't. Get out of bed and find somewhere nice and calm and relaxing, and find something boring to do. It's 2 a.m. It's hard. Don't get on your phone. Don't start saying, okay, I might as well get started on my day. No, don't do that. So do something boring. And when I say boring, boring. So there's nothing boring on your phone. There's nothing boring on your iPad. So it's either read a boring book, or do some meditation, or some writing, journaling, or fold and unfold laundry, if that does not frustrate you. That frustrates me. It doesn't calm me down. Some people find that so fold and unfold, like something super monotonous. So essentially, you're going to try to take your mind off, just detach from those thoughts, right? And then go back to sleep, because the sleep will come.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I wish I
have a
like
whole
10 years ago.
Well, now you know me now.
Problems.
Oh, really? I'm glad to hear they're better. Yeah.
But yeah, you're definitely able to transform. It's crazy how little things can really make a big difference.
Yeah.
Jess, so you stopped watching TV at night, right? Because I know that used to be big for you.
I used to need the TV because I was one of those ones where my thoughts were always racing. I couldn't turn my mind off. So I put the TV on, so it helped me, it droned out what was going on inside, and I was able to fall asleep. But my boyfriend, who I moved in with a year ago, does not like the TV on when we sleep, so I don't sleep with it on.
That's
but I'm
good.
also getting better sleep. I've made better choices around bedtime, and figured out how to clear my mind so it's not racing at nighttime. And I go to sleep at night by 9:30 every night with a
That's
no
perfect. That is awesome. That's usually the hardest, because people feel there's this strong need for the TV just to kind of block or mask those thoughts. I think there are other ways around that. Some people don't like the complete quiet. And so, things like a noise machine, that's those fake noise machines.
Or if I wake up and he gets up early and I still need to sleep, I'll put on some like ocean waves or something.
Perfect. Or just even the ceiling fan, things like that, just to keep that buzz going. But the light from the TVs is really not helpful for your sleep.
Yeah, now that bothers me if it happens to be on when I fall asleep. If I wake up, I'm like, oh, that's so bright.
Yeah. And sometimes even when you are sleeping, and the light, because there's different wavelengths, there's different scenes and things like that. So even through your closed eyes, you actually can, those what you call photoreceptors in your eyes can actually pick out those changes, and that can still disrupt your sleep as well. So I'm very sensitive to light, so I end up using, even though my room is like super pitch black, I have blackout curtains. I still use, the
sleep mask.
Yeah, my sleep masks. I still use my sleep masks, and because once I get any perception of light, I'm just like, oh, come on. Yeah. So.
Well, so I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So my daughter loves having like night lights and music and noise. Like she has like 2 or 3 light sources of sorts, and then like her night music. But she sleeps, like seems to get good sleep. Is that a bad habit, or is that just who she is?
That's absolutely fine. I feel like while we talk about like, some people don't need to do much. Some people sleep with the TV on and they are absolutely able to sleep all night long. They're absolutely able to function and they sleep enough. So if that's you, that's awesome. It's not a lot of people, I would say with the lights, for her, as long as she's able to sleep and you're sure she's sleeping, that's fine. One thing I would recommend, because you do have a lot of kids that have fears of the dark, there's a monster, you know what I mean? You can use a nightlight, but just try to avoid it being like directly in front of them. So maybe somewhere in the back or somewhere where it's not necessarily glaring. And I think the idea is also with the wavelength. So if you have like blue light or really bright light, then that's gonna make your brain think it's daytime. Or if it's kind of like those night lights, they tend to have, you know, much shorter wavelengths and things like that, which I usually find. I recommend night lights all the time. It's much better than having some huge overhead light on when you're sleeping. Yeah.
I am super excited to give my husband all of this information. I have a pile of socks that needs to get sorted. That could be his 2 a.m. chore.
I know it's interesting though, because most of the time it's women that struggle with their mind racing and being like light sleepers. Most men tend to just sleep through it all. So but it does happen.
My husband and I are exact opposites. Like all those memes that say like, oh, my husband sleeps while the kids ask me whatever, and it's the opposite. I sleep like a rock.
The only time I was ever a light sleeper was when my daughter was a baby, but I think that's a whole other story. But besides that, it was always, if I could fall asleep, once I was asleep, I was out. Like my mom sometimes questioned if I was alive when I was little. A deep sleeper, and I breathed so shallowly that like she got nervous.
Just checking.
She did. But my boyfriend also is like, he can fall asleep right away. But if I get up to the bathroom, when I come back in, he's like, "Oh, are you okay?" Like if I move, like he'll say something. I think he's also a light sleeper.
A light sleeper. Yeah. It's really interesting. I guess we all have kind of different sleep personalities, you know. I think the important thing is whatever we're doing, just to make sure we're prioritizing it, you know, and making it work for us.
Yes, that's huge.
So let's talk about kids' sleep then. Because I have 2 boys, one's 4 and one is, they're almost 2 and 5. Next month they'll be 2 and 5. And my 5-year-old sleeps like me. He sleeps like a rock. No, like you cannot wake him if you try. And my 2-year-old, he is a light sleeper. Like last night I walked into his room to set something down, quiet as a mouse, and he just goes, like he'd been asleep for maybe 20 minutes, and he just goes, "Hi, Mama," like, "You're here." And then he was awake until 10, and I was like, dang it, I shouldn't have walked in the room. But it's usually I have white noise on, and last night I didn't, so I think that might have been the difference. But what do you do? Like, how do you help your kids to get a healthy night's sleep, no matter who they are or what they sleep like?
So one of the things, and that's why for me, you know, I not only address the kids' sleep, I also help with the mom, because I feel like it's a continuum. As moms, we have to be role models. So that's one of the things I try to encourage. Like, I know you're so concerned about your child's sleep, but your sleep also has to be in a good place as well. So let's try to tackle it. So for kids, I mean, we know it, right? We are creatures of habits. Kids love routines. And so we have the time when they're doing this, the time when they're doing that. When they're babies, we know when they take their naps, they feed, we change diaper, we go for a walk. We have it all outlined. And then, you know, as they get older, it seems like, you know. So I think it's really the best place to start is consistency. Having a consistent routine and having a consistent bedtime and wake time. I think that's really important, because it actually signals their body, their circadian system, to sleep, to expect and anticipate sleep. So really setting a consistent bedtime, a consistent wake time, I think is really important. And then having a routine is also very important. So a calming routine, 2 to 4 activities, nothing too complicated, but stuff that leads you in the direction of the bedroom. So not, you know, sometimes you may take a shower, then go downstairs and play like some rough play, throw, no, not that kind of stuff. He just really wants stuff to kind of move you gradually towards the bedroom. So whether it's to take a nice warm shower or bath or whatever, read a book, do some chatting in bed or talking, and then maybe sing a song, and then into bed they go. So as they do that, they're anticipating sleep. And so I feel like that's really helpful for kids who may want to challenge, like push their limits and things like that. So this way they know this is what you do at nighttime, right? And so that's really helpful. And then the other piece is, like you said, try to create an environment that's welcoming for sleep. So either making sure the room is dark as well, making sure there's either white noise, if that's what they prefer, or noise free. And the temperature, one of the things that I notice a lot is our bodies actually prefer a cool temperature to fall asleep. So make sure the room is nice and cool. There's no there's some people that'll say, maybe 68 degrees, 65 degrees. Find what is comfortably cool for you and for your child. The other piece is, technology. So the same way we have to address it for ourselves, we have to make sure that 30 to 60 minutes, our kids are not, exposed to the lights and things like that from devices and things like that. So those are some things I recommend in terms of just basic. I don't like to call them sleep hygiene, because for me it sounds like, okay, what do you mean sleep hygiene? Like, does that mean your child's dirty because you're not practicing it? So just healthy sleep habits. So it's good to just have that. And if you're having sleep issues or your child is having sleep issues, you just kind of do like mental checklist. Okay, is there anything going on around here? Did they eat too late, whereby they're now uncomfortable? And then, when you've done that, sometimes all that you may still have issues with sleep with your child. You may have a child who is, quote unquote, a night owl and just really doesn't want to settle down. You may have a child who's like, Mommy, I'm thirsty, one more bathroom, can I have a snack? I'm hungry, blah, 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 another hug, there's a monster under my pillow, all of those things. And the idea is that you help them set those limits the same way we set limits during the day. Okay, if you're thirsty and you have the only thing with that is you have to be careful. Sometimes I'll say just leave a cup of water next to the bed. Usually they're not that thirsty, it's just an excuse. You know what I mean? Like, you try to preempt those and preemptively address all those many issues that they may be having. Sometimes you might have a child who is just, maybe, I think for me, and one thing I always say is also having the right expectation. So if your 2-year-old is going to bed at 7 p.m., now they're 5, don't expect them to fall asleep at 7 p.m., right? So what's that looks like? So what does that look like? So how many hours of sleep do they need? So as they're getting older, the number of hours of sleep they need changes. So your child who was sleeping earlier may need a slightly later bedtime. So that sometimes is one of the most common reasons why children are just having so much of a pushback when it comes to their sleep.
Yeah, what I was gonna ask, like for adults, it's 8 hours is the recommended, correct? So what does that look like for kids as they age? What's like the recommended and an ideal going to sleep time, or when you change it?
Yeah, so the National Sleep Foundation has very set recommendations for sleep, both for children and adults. And like you said, those recommendations change with age. And in adults, it's actually, the beautiful thing is it's a range. So not everybody needs 8 hours. 8 hours is great, but some people can get away with 7.5. Some people need a little bit more, up to 9 hours, for instance. So adults usually is about 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And usually when you're talking about like infants and young children, you're going anywhere from 14 to 17 hours of sleep. When you have, a young toddler, you're talking about 12 to 15 hours. For preschool children and things like that, they need about 11 to 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then more of the school age children usually need about 9 to 11 hours. And then our teenagers need 8 to 10 hours. And then the adults are 7 to 9. So now the infants, the preschoolers, up until early school age probably will need a nap, because it's not like they can consolidate all that, So that's where, like, and think about it, right? The under 3 months, you're probably taking like naps pretty much around the clock.
Mm-hmm.
Then your night sleep gets consolidated, and then you drop to about maybe 2 naps. And then over time, you drop to 1 nap. And then the naps, usually by school age, your naps should be gone. Some children drop their naps even sooner, as long as they're getting enough sleep at night and they're not feeling sleepy during the day and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, about the naps. I'm in that phase where my 4, almost 5-year-old is done with naps mostly, but if he doesn't nap, he gets grumpy in the middle of the day.
Mm.
And if he does nap, he's up later than I am. Like, he's up till 10, because I'm like, let's go to bed. I'm so tired. And then it's usually just get in bed with me, because I don't have the patience to stay up with you. I need to go to bed and not put them to sleep. So what do you recommend for that weird age?
Yeah, I know. It's tricky. So I think most of the time, one of the things that you could do is you try it out. So sometimes you may need maybe a shorter nap instead of like a whole one long nap, just to kind of help them take the edge off. And sometimes they may need, especially if he's still grumpy, sometimes you may consider having a slightly earlier bedtime. If they're like, absolutely not, I don't want to have anything to do with naps right now. You know what I mean? So I would say if he's tired, if he looks like he's exhausted, if he's falling asleep on car rides, then he probably still needs that nap. And so you can make it shorter and you can make it earlier. Okay?
Make the nap earlier?
Yeah, you can make it a little bit earlier. Yeah.
Okay.
Because that way he's able to still build enough sleep pressure to be sleepy at night. Or if you make the nap too late, then you don't have enough. So this is you're gonna love this. Our sleep is regulated by 2 systems. Our circadian rhythm, which is our body clock that dictates when you wake up, when you when you feel sleepy, when you go down to sleep, and also regulates other functions in our body. And the sleep piece is regulated by the melatonin hormone and things. So that's the circadian system. The other system is what you call the sleep pressure, or your sleep drive. Another word for it is your homeostatic drive. So think of it like a pressure cooker. Right from when you wake up, you don't have any sleep debt. You're not sleepy. Nobody's going to tell you to take a nap at 9 a.m. if you just woke up. You know what I mean? So you accrue sleep debt over the course of the day, like a pressure cooker. And so at nighttime, right around there, of course, around the time when your circadian rhythm also is dipping as melatonin is being produced, your sleep is really now at that maximum pressure. And so when you go to sleep, you're sort of popping up that pressure valve, and then you dissipate that sleep pressure. Now, as that pressure is accumulating, and in the middle of the day, you take a nap, what's going to happen? You just paid off some of the debt.
I love it.
I know, I knew you would love that. So that's why he's not sleepy at night. So if you make the nap a little bit earlier, make it short, you should be able to go to sleep. If not, then he's like right at the climax of the pressure.
Yeah.
And so then he may need a slightly earlier bedtime. So you can play around with it, see what works.
Oh my gosh. We're going to the sleep bank early today.
Yeah.
I love that. That is such a great visual.
You know what? I have an interesting question. So those school age kids that don't want to get up, like they're going to sleep at the right time, they're getting real sleep, but in the morning, like they're just going to keep sleeping in. Is there anything around sleep that helps with them, like feeling really good to pop out of bed when it's time to pop out of bed?
It's hard. So that's a group of kids that I'm so passionate about. And one of the things that I do it's limited, but I do provide support for moms where I coach them to help coach their kids to improve their sleep, especially those teens and late school age kids, because it's almost like I'm literally almost pouring cold water over him to get him out of bed. Like literally we have like 4 or 5 alarms go off and he just wants to sleep through it. And then it just creates all this discord, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Now, there are 2 different things going on with our preteens and our teenagers. Is that with puberty, their circadian rhythm, again, that same body clock that kind of helps regulate when their sleep is, or the sleep-wake cycle and things like that, it's shifted. So they naturally are not able to fall asleep at, 9 p.m. They just can't because their melatonin production is later. So their bodies are just producing this melatonin later, and they prefer a later wake up time in the morning. So when they eventually fall asleep, which is like, their bodies prefer like a 11 p.m. or 12 midnight kind of time. When they eventually fall asleep, they can actually stay asleep and sleep for their recommended, 9 hours or 10 hours. But then guess what truncates it? Life, right? We have early school start times. And so many of these kids have to get up, 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. to get on the bus.
Yeah.
And to learn like hardcore stuff in school. So think about that. Asking a 12 or 13-year-old or so to get up, get into the school bus and get to school and start doing geometry, calculus. So it's like you and I, someone waking us up at 4 a.m. and telling you to solve some hardcore problem too. So it's so not right. So it's not them. They're not being lazy. Their bodies are just so I think really it's the education piece is something that I'm passionate about, helping parents to see and helping those kids to see, because eventually some of our kids are like, okay, maybe something's wrong with me, I'm lazy or this. And again, remember, there's all this association between mood and sleep. And so they're depressed, they're anxious, they feel like they're not able to achieve their best because they're not sleeping enough. Their learning is off, their ability to create and make good decisions are off. And so, then it just kind of spirals to all these things. And then all of a sudden, teenage years are troubled years. So some of it is with their sleep.
That's so sad.
It is sad. So what can we do as parents is advocate for them, advocate for later school start times. There's so many bodies now, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, the American Association of Pediatrics, the CDC have actually released statements to say that all middle schools and late and high schools should have a late school start time, really because of this physiology, because we're working against their bodies. In terms of what to do for parents, I think key is education. I think that's a big piece. And then 2 is getting the kids on board. Like, this is what's happening to you. Unfortunately, our society right now is not going to let you sleep until 9 a.m., which is when your body wants to wake up. So how can we figure out strategies to kind of move your sleep in a reasonable way, whereby you're at least still getting close to your recommended number of hours of sleep? And sometimes they may need a nap. They do, right? If they're not getting enough, just to try a little catch up, and also just to take the edge off. But usually I'll say, if you're going to take a nap for a teenager, I would say have it earlier in the day, as much as possible, like right after school or something. But it's hard, right? They have all the sports and all the after school activities. So it's for me, it's a crisis.
Yeah. I was even like, I didn't even think about that. That's coming in the next 5 years for me. My daughter is 9. but yeah, I wonder if she's even, because she's just on the edge of puberty kind of starting soon then.
Yeah, and you may start to see that preference where it's just harder for my daughter's 10, and we've started to inch a little. I mean, I set by like 9:15 she has to be asleep, so she wakes up around like 7 a.m., a little after 7, but we've kind of moved just a tad bit. But you can't like, it's unfortunate, like this is what their bodies are saying, but this is what society is saying, so we have to find a middle ground. So even though she may not be able to fall asleep early, we can find ways to promote early sleep. So back to the routines, back to the devices, but things like that.
Yeah, we've had almost the same half an hour before bedtime routine since she was a baby. So she's very used to that, which is good.
That's perfect.
But she also loves to read. So then she'll read past when I close the door for longer than I want her to.
Yeah. Well, if she's reading for a few minutes after, that's okay, as long as she's not. Yeah.
Well, no, sometimes she'll read like an hour past closing the door. I'm like, this is why you're so tired.
Yeah.
But at least she's reading and not doing
I
that.
know.
I'm
not Yeah. I'm not playing video games yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have loved this conversation, which I could tell based on how many people recommended you. Like everyone loves you.
That's so true.
Yeah,
that was so fun. I'm like, oh wait, tag, what's going on here? So yeah.
I asked for recommendations in a Facebook group, and I think there were like 5 people that tagged you, and so of all the people that said, yeah, I'm a sleep expert, I was like, well, I'm gonna go based on the recommendations. Funke knows exactly what she's talking about. I'm going to go for it.
I mean, it's fascinating, and I love your perspective on it. And I mean, you have great energy, so it's really cool to just.
I think it's that you're passionate. Like that speaks volumes. You love it. It's not just something you do. You love it.
Yeah. This was, and I love what your podcast stands for. In the raw, and just really giving people spaces to be vulnerable, right? And just. I think for me, how, I don't know, I guess I'm middle-aged now. I guess, I don't know. I guess you could say that. I'm still, you start to think, I know, there we go. Black don't crack, all that good stuff. So, it was just like on my journey to self-discovery, which I've been exploring, right? Like we all do over time, eventually, like, okay, what is this? Is this just going to be this rat race and that's it? But how can I help? And what do I have, right? What is something that I'm seeing? And, I've seen sleep. I've seen what sleep can do to families. I've seen it break up families, actually. I've seen really, really sad things because of sleep. And I know enough. I've lived it too, as someone who's also had sleep deprivation, right? From, again, my experiences as training in medicine and having young kids who had like some, sleep issues as well. And I'm knowing that I could do this little bit to help. I can't fix it all, but I think if I could draw your attention to something that's free, sleep is free, that for me is purpose. So I think that's what you see and you hear.
Yeah. Oh, I do too. Well, that was a great segue for our raw moment. So would you be willing to share with us one of the rawest moments of your life? And the reason we do this is just to show our listeners out there that they're not alone. Just because society doesn't talk about this hard stuff doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to every single person out there. So do you have a moment of your life that you're willing to share that was raw, difficult, but that you, that you want to let others know that they're not alone if they experience it too?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the hardest, for me, I consider myself an encourager of people. And so most of the time, I'm so focused on empowering people that I've had moments when I've neglected myself. And so I hit a hard spot when my mom passed away. So that was like in 2018. And you know, it was hard. It was hard, but I just kept trying to push through until I could not push. I had no more push in me. And so I had to seek help. I got, you know, into therapy. Um, and so and then I also, with that, was actually around when I started to birth this passion of what I'm doing now and inspiring people and things like that. And so I think that was a very hard season in my life, but you know, I'm here today and I'm living to tell the story. So I think it's a good thing. And yeah, I would say that was a hard one for me.
I can so relate to that because I also like I love to encourage other people, and I went through a really bad depression for 6 years. But the crazy thing is, just like you said, on the other side of that was that I found my real purpose.
Yeah.
It's like almost like I had to break down this wall of like, I'm a positive, happy person.
Yeah, exactly.
Go through the stuff and be like, oh, wait a second. I don't need to just be positive.
Yeah.
I can encourage other women in their journeys of difficulty, which is just like a beautiful thing. So I love, I totally understand what you mean. Like purpose is on the other side of some of the really hardest moments of our lives.
Pain, 100%. I love that. Yeah, that is so true.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, I don't know if Ciara told you, we like to do a little fun lightning round with our guests, like a few like quick questions. So I've got 5 questions for you. The first one depends on, do you celebrate Halloween? Are you a Halloween person?
Partly.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
What is the best Halloween costume you ever had?
So my kids actually, because I grew up in Nigeria, so we didn't celebrate Halloween, you know. So let's see. I had my daughter dress up. We're not that creative, but we did both. We were both Minnie Mouse. So that was cute.
Together?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
cute.
together. Yeah. That. So that was cute.
I'm sure that was one of her favorite beginning to
Yeah, she did. She really did like it.
And then you are in the Philly area, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I know Ciara's there. I'm originally from South Jersey, Philly area too. So I know there's a lot of delicious food there. What's your favorite like Philly food?
Ooh, it's the unhealthiest, the cheesesteaks.
That's okay.
Do it for me. Oh God in heaven. I mean, I could count a number of times, but it's like a true, this is a Philly cheesesteak moment, and I'm gonna get one.
How do you have yours? What do you put on?
Everything.
Everything.
With? I'm learning that phrase. With or without? Or no, I messed it up. It's with, or I don't know. I can't ever. My husband tries to explain. Just walk up and say it.
I know.
What do I need to say? Give me the note card.
Yeah.
Okay, the next question is, because you mentioned you have your very good sleep rituals and you like your certain things. So what is your favorite kind of blanket to sleep with?
Ooh. I mean, in the winter, I do have like a white fur, faux fur blanket. That's just so good on my skin.
I love it.
The next question we love to ask everybody because we're huge supporters of small businesses. So do you have a favorite small business that you love to support?
Yes. So I actually just came across this. It was actually during my daughter's birthday. She had like this candy themed birthday, and I'd gone into a candy store and they said, listen, there's this lady who bakes the most amazing cakes. It's Marita's Cakes. And she's just this incredible lady with young kids as well, who just bakes the most amazing cakes. So since I discovered her, I've been like telling people about her, trying to get her, on social media as well, tagged her and all that. So definitely a business that I fully support.
Do you know what her like social media handle is, or?
She's at Marita's Cakes.
Maria's?
No, Marita, Maritas. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we will definitely, give her a shout out here and put her in the show.
That's
notes.
awesome. That's awesome.
And she's local up there.
Yeah, she's local up there. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
And
That's
then
so sweet.
our last question is, what is your favorite thing about you?
My favorite thing about me is my authenticity.
Oh, I
I
love
think
that
it's
too.
the fact that what you see is what it is, So, yeah, I think that's something that I think as I make decisions, as I grow in my business, which I am, sort of on the earlier phases, it's something I'm constantly aware of. I feel like even with the age of social media, that's something that we may lose track of, we may lose ourselves. And so that's something that's keeping me constantly grounded in the content I share, the posts, the people I follow. And yeah, that for sure.
I love that. Oh, I'm going to send you our Facebook group after this. I feel like you would be a great voice in there. It's Empowered Unstoppable Women, and I feel like that completely embodies you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so I just have two more questions for you. The first one is, we pick a word of the year every year, and this year's word is strength. So can you tell me, like, just fill in the sentence, strength to me means, and then whatever strength means to you?
Strength to me means resilience and persistence, even through uncertainty.
So good. Oh, I love that. That was great. And then finally, where can everybody find you? How can we get in touch with you? Where can we find you on social?
Yeah. So I'm at Restful Sleep MD on Instagram, and I also have a Facebook page that's Restful Sleep MD. My website also is restfulsleepmd.com, and they're actually, if your listeners subscribe to my newsletter, I do have a sleep habits cheat sheet. It's kind of where to start. Again, remember, you Google sleep routine, sleep hygiene, like so much information comes at you, but I've made it very simple, very practical for people to be able to grasp. And I also am available for like speaking engagements. So if you have conferences or webinars or events, especially along the wellness space and, busy women entrepreneurship space, that's something that I'm always happy to connect with you about. And you can contact me on my website there as well.
Awesome. I love that.
I love it.
So glad you're part of our little community now.
Yes, me too.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. We're going to put all of your links in the show notes, so to all of our listeners, you can find them there. And I'll just sign off now. Is that all right? Does that sound good? Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll do we just have a quick little sign off, and then that will be that.
Sounds good.
Well, thank you all for listening and joining us today. We loved having you. And we hope that you were just as inspired as we were by Funke's amazing knowledge on sleep and how imperative it is to our health and well-being. Throughout this whole month, we just want to encourage you to take a look at what you're doing and create healthier habits. Even if it's just one habit at a time, take those steps to being a healthier you. And if you want more encouragement in that, you can find us at our Facebook group, Empowered Unstoppable Women, or check us out on Instagram at inrawlife.co.
Until next week, I hope that you go and check Funke out on some of her social media and get on her newsletter and get that sleep habit cheat sheet, because that sounds amazing and perfect. And if you happen to wake up in the middle of the night and you just cannot go back to sleep, do not pick up your cell phone. Just go do something boring and then let yourself relax and either go back to sleep or start your day when it's supposed to start.
Grab a pile of socks.
Pile of socks.
I love it. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh.
You.
Thank you.